I'm Laverne McGee on this Tuesday, August 3rd at this hour. Heavy news from the New York Attorney General's office.
The independent investigation has concluded that Governor Andrew Cuomo sexually harassed multiple women and in doing so violated federal and state law.
I never touched anyone inappropriately or made inappropriate sexual advances.
Yeah, Keith, I'm glad that you mentioned the victims because we, of course, have to be conscious of what they're going through. And in fact, I want to bring in now psychiatrist Carole Lieberman from Los Angeles to give us some perspective from that side of the story. Welcome to BNC. I want to bring you into the conversation, Carole. There you are. Thank you for joining us. Let's talk about what the victims must be feeling right now. This is out in the open, out in the public, a huge story. Is that making it harder on them because they're having to relive this issue, or or is this something that could possibly help what they're going through because they know that perhaps justice may be coming?
Well, actually, it depends very much upon the individual women. Some of them will feel relieved that finally somebody is paying attention and that this investigation actually validated them, validated their complaints as being actual sexual harassment. Others, now that their names or, some are more easily identifiable than others, some of them aren't really going to be happy about having to face questions. So, what's interesting is that there's a big variety in the degree of severity of the complaints. Some of them are very serious, touching intimate body parts and so on, and others are less serious. And so there might be some people who would go to them and say, really, you thought that was such a big deal? So they're going to have a variety of, the impact is going to be different according to each woman.
And so, Keith, when you hear Carole talking about this, your job and the job of people in your position is to carry this through and see this forward if the process plays out. Is there any type of situation where victims would have to be concerned because their personal life would end up on the front pages every day if it turns into a case? I mean, how do you find that balance? Because you want to pursue this and see if there are indeed criminal charges, if there is a reason to prosecute, if there's a reason to move forward, but then you're also dealing with the privacy concerns. How is that handled?
Well, it's one of those things where if she was to come into my office right now, we're going to have that conversation before we go public. You got to let her know as the attorney that, hey, if we decide to move forward with this, if we decide to expose this gentleman, that you're going to be public light. So I'm sure that all these ladies know, or at least have been told that, hey, this will potentially happen. If you decide to come out almost like a whistleblower and say, hey, this is inappropriate action and I'm a victim, that you're opening the door to your life and people looking into you and judging you. I'm assuming that at this point, they said, you know what? I don't care about people judging me. I want the truth to come out, and they move forward.
And Carole, real quick, if the governor at this point came out and said, you know what, I apologize, I did this, does that help the victims in terms of their mental state, or at this point in time the damage is already done?
Well, at this point, it's a little late for that. I think what's going to be happening is these women, probably most of them have already contacted attorneys to file civil suits. And I think that, and for those who are more easily identifiable, they have been contacted by a whole bunch of attorneys trying to take their civil suit. I've been an expert witness in countless sexual harassment cases, both on the side of the victim, the alleged victim, and on the side of the alleged perpetrator. And, although in this case, it's like 50,000 Frenchmen can't be wrong, 50,000 women, there are so many of them, and obviously something happened. But, in real life, well, when it's not the governor, it's really very complicated, and you do have to prove it, and you have to show, for a lot of times, there are men his age, Cuomo's age, a lot of times things that they do, not the touching, but, calling a woman dear or sweetheart, they're sort of used to that from their day, you know, from how they were, what they were exposed to. So that oftentimes they're like confused. Really, is it bad if I say, you know, hello, dear, or you look pretty, dear? But, you know, and there has to be more than that, really, for it to be considered sexual harassment.
Yes, certainly quite a challenging and difficult situation for so many people. But Keith and Carole, thank you so much for joining us today here on BNC.